Admiral Crick stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the stars. The Harmony's Edge was the biggest ship in the Federation fleet. Its hull stretched for miles, covered in weapons and armor. Around it, 846 other warships flew in perfect formation. "Sir, we are 3 days from the target system," Commander Yule reported. He was young for his rank, but the Federation rewarded those who showed loyalty. His people, the Karathi, had joined the Federation 50 years ago after seeing what happened to those who refused. Crix nodded. The Sol system was just another dot on their maps. Intelligence reports said the humans were weak. They had only recently learned to travel between stars. Their technology was basic. Their military was small. It would be an easy conquest. "What do we know about their defenses?" Crix asked. Fleet Captain Nara stepped forward. She commanded the second wave of ships. Her blue skin marked her as Zephyrian, a race known for their tactical skills. "Very little, Admiral. They have some space stations around their homeworld, a few mining operations in their asteroid belt. Nothing that could threaten even one of our destroyers." The bridge crew laughed. They had heard this before. Every species they encountered thought they could resist the Federation. None ever could. The Federation had been expanding for 3,000 years. They had absorbed over 200 different civilizations. "Sir," Lieutenant Dan called from his station. He was monitoring long-range sensors. "I'm getting some strange readings from the outer system." "Strange how?" Crix asked. Dan frowned at his display. "There are more artificial structures than our intelligence suggested. And they're not all around the main planet. Some are scattered throughout the system." "Probably mining operations," Nara said with a wave of her hand. "Primitive species often strip mine their systems before they learn proper resource management." Crix walked to the main viewing screen. The Sol system looked small and unimportant. Just one yellow star with a few rocky planets. He had conquered systems with 10 times more worlds. This would be over quickly. "Begin standard intimidation protocol," he ordered. "I want full power displays. Let them see what they're facing." The Federation fleet had perfected this approach over centuries. First, they would demonstrate their overwhelming power. They would destroy a few asteroids or empty moons. The target species would see the destruction and understand they could not win. Most surrendered immediately. Those who didn't surrender faced total annihilation. "Admiral," Communications Officer Bong announced, "we're picking up transmissions from the human worlds." "Panic broadcasts?" Crix asked. "Pleas for mercy?" Bong listened to his equipment for a moment. "No, sir. These appear to be military communications. Very organized. They're mobilizing their forces." "Good," Crix said. "It's better when they fight a little. Makes the conquest more satisfying." But something in Bong's voice made him pause. The communications officer looked confused. "Sir, these don't sound like the communications we usually intercept." "They're very calm. Very professional," Nara laughed. "They probably think their little ships can actually do something. Wait until they see our dreadnoughts." The Federation fleet continued its approach. Their ships were built to inspire fear. Massive hulls covered in spikes and armor, weapons that could destroy entire cities, shields that could stop any attack they had ever encountered. Each ship carried thousands of crew members. The Harmony's Edge alone had a crew of 50,000. They had Marines, fighter pilots, weapons specialists, and engineers. They were ready for any form of resistance. "Sir," Dan reported again, "I'm still getting unusual readings. These human installations, they're not behaving like civilian structures." "What do you mean?" Crix asked. "They're not trying to hide from us. Most species evacuate their outer colonies when they see our fleet approaching. These installations are staying active. Some are even moving into new positions." Yule checked his own sensors. "The lieutenant is right, Admiral. And I'm detecting energy signatures that don't match our intelligence reports. These readings suggest more advanced technology than we expected." Crix felt the first small doubt creep into his mind, but he pushed it away. No species had ever seriously threatened a Federation fleet. The humans would be no different. "Perhaps they're braver than most," he said. "Or more foolish." The fleet moved deeper into the system. As they did, more strange readings appeared on their sensors. The humans had ships moving throughout their solar system. But they weren't fleeing toward their homeworld as expected. They were moving outward, toward the Federation fleet. "Admiral," Nara said, studying her tactical display, "the humans appear to be advancing to meet us." "Advancing?" Crix laughed. "How many ships do they have?" "It's hard to tell, sir. Our sensors are picking up multiple contacts, but the readings keep shifting. Some signals appear and disappear, others split into multiple contacts. Sensor ghosts, Yule suggested. Their technology is probably interfering with our equipment. But Dan wasn't convinced. He had been studying the readings for hours now. Something was very wrong. The human signals didn't behave like malfunctioning equipment. They moved with purpose. They followed patterns, sir, he said carefully. I think the humans might be using some kind of stealth technology. These aren't sensor errors. These are deliberate deceptions. Crix turned to face him. Stealth technology? These primitives? The evidence suggests it, sir. Watch this. Dan brought up his display on the main screen. See how these contacts move? They're not random. They're coordinated. And look at the timing. Every time we focus our sensors on one area, new contacts appear somewhere else. The bridge fell silent as everyone studied the display. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. The humans were playing games with their sensors. It doesn't matter, Crix said finally. Stealth or no stealth, they can't hide an entire fleet from us forever. And when we find them, we'll crush them. But privately, he was beginning to worry. In all his years of conquest, no species had ever shown this level of technological sophistication. The humans were supposed to be primitives. They were supposed to be easy prey, sir, Bong announced. We're receiving a transmission from the humans. Finally, Crix said. Put it through. A human face appeared on the screen. The alien looked calm and professional. Too calm for someone facing annihilation. This is Captain Minho of the Terran Defense Force, the human said. You have entered sovereign human space without permission. Please state your intentions, Crix smiled. This was familiar territory. I am Admiral Crix of the Galactic Federation. Your system has been selected for absorption into the Federation. Surrender now and your species will be spared. The human captain showed no fear. No panic, he simply nodded. I see, thank you for clarifying your position, Admiral. We will respond accordingly. The transmission ended. Nara looked puzzled. That wasn't the response we usually get. No, Crix agreed. It wasn't. Something was definitely wrong. But there was no turning back now. The Federation fleet continued its advance toward the inner system, where the humans waited. The Federation fleet moved deeper into the Sol system, and the strange readings got worse. Communications Officer Bong sat at his station, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. Human military channels buzzed with activity, but not the panicked chatter he expected. Admiral, Bong called out, the human communications are very organized. They're using complex encryption that we can't break easily, and their coordination is impressive. Admiral Crix walked over to study Bong's displays. What kind of coordination? They're moving ships and personnel across their entire system in perfect timing. Different units are working together like they've practiced this many times before. That worried Crix more than he wanted to admit. Most species fought in chaos when the Federation arrived. They scrambled to defend their homeworlds with whatever ships they had. But the humans were acting like they had been expecting this attack. Lieutenant Dan looked up from his sensor station. Sir, I'm detecting more installations than our intelligence reported. A lot more? How many more? Fleet Captain Nara asked. At least 3 times what we expected. And they're not just around Earth. There are fortified positions throughout the asteroid belt, around Jupiter, and even near the outer planets. Nara frowned. That doesn't make sense. It takes centuries to build that kind of infrastructure. Our scout said the humans only reached space 50 years ago. Maybe our intelligence was wrong, Yule suggested. Federation intelligence is never wrong, Crix said firmly. But even as he spoke the words, doubt crept into his voice. The fleet continued forward. As they moved, their sensors picked up more details about the human installations. What they found made no sense. The structures were heavily armored and built into asteroids and moons. They had massive power sources and weapon systems that should have taken centuries to develop. Sir, Dan reported, I'm reading energy signatures that match military-grade fusion reactors. Hundreds of them. That's impossible, Nara said. A primitive species couldn't have that many military installations, but the evidence was right there on their screens. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a fortress. Every moon, every asteroid, every space station was armed and ready for war. Commander Yule studied the tactical displays with growing concern. Admiral, these installations aren't arranged randomly. They're positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire. This is a carefully planned defensive network. Planned by who? Crix demanded. These are primitives. Maybe they're not as primitive as we thought, Yule said quietly. The idea was disturbing. The Federation had rules about how conquests worked. They studied target species for years before attacking. They knew exactly what to expect. But everything about this system was wrong. Sir, Bong announced, the humans are broadcasting on all channels. They want us to hear this. A new face appeared on the main screen. This human wore a military uniform covered in decorations. Behind him, other humans worked at computer stations with calm efficiency. This is Admiral Gina of the Terran Defense Force, the human said. Your fleet has been detected and tracked since you entered the outer system. You are currently targeted by 372 defensive installations. If you wish to avoid unnecessary casualties, please explain your purpose here. The transmission ended before Crix could respond. Nara stared at the blank screen. 372 installations? That's impossible. Our sensors only detect maybe 50 structures. Unless they're hiding the rest, Dan said. Sir, what if the humans have better stealth technology than we realized? Crix wanted to dismiss the idea, but the evidence kept mounting. The humans were behaving like a major military power, not a primitive species. They had infrastructure that shouldn't exist. They had technology that shouldn't work, and they were completely calm in the face of a Federation fleet. Begin the intimidation display, Crix ordered. Target that large asteroid in the belt. Full power. This was standard procedure. They would demonstrate their overwhelming firepower by destroying something impressive. The target species would see the destruction and understand they had no hope of victory. The Federation flagship charged its main weapons. The Harmony's Edge carried plasma cannons that could crack planets. A single shot would vaporize the targeted asteroid and send a clear message to the humans. Weapons ready, sir, the gunnery officer reported. Fire. The plasma beam lanced out across space. It struck the asteroid with enough energy to power a small star. The blast should have turned the rock into glowing gas. Instead, something impossible happened. The asteroid didn't explode. Instead, it seemed to absorb the energy. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the asteroid began to move. Sections of rock fell away, revealing a massive metal structure underneath. What is that? Nara whispered. The structure was huge, easily the size of a Federation cruiser. But it wasn't built like any ship they had ever seen. It was all angles and armor with weapons ports opening along its hull. Sir, Dan called out, his voice tight with fear. That wasn't an asteroid. It's a disguised battle station. Before anyone could respond, the human station fired back. A beam of pure energy struck the Harmony's Edge. The Federation flagship's shields held, but barely. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as power fluctuations ran through the ship. Damage report, Crix shouted. Shields down to 60% from a single hit, the engineering officer reported. Sir, that weapon is more powerful than anything in our database. Crix stared at the tactical display in shock. The humans had just hurt his flagship with one shot. That should have been impossible, sir, Bong announced. We're receiving another transmission. The same human admiral appeared on screen. She still looked completely calm. That was a warning shot, Admiral Gina said. Your demonstration of power has been noted and answered. We are prepared to defend our system with whatever force is necessary. This is your final opportunity to explain your intentions. The transmission ended again. The bridge of the Harmony's Edge fell silent. Every officer stared at their displays, trying to understand what had just happened. A primitive species had just exchanged fire with a Federation dreadnought and won the exchange. Sir, Dan said quietly, I'm detecting movement throughout the system. Multiple contacts coming online. How many? Crix asked. Dan checked his readings twice before answering. Hundreds, sir. Maybe thousands. They were hidden, but now they're revealing themselves. On the tactical display, new contacts appeared everywhere. The asteroid belt came alive with hidden stations. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn lit up with weapon signatures. Even the outer planets showed signs of military installations. This is impossible, Nara breathed. No species could hide this much military hardware. But Commander Yule was studying the patterns. The way the installations were positioned. The timing of their reveal. The coordination of their movements, Admiral, he said slowly. I don't think the humans are primitive at all. I think they wanted us to believe they were primitive. The idea hit Crix like a physical blow. You're saying this was a trap? Look at the evidence, sir. Perfect intelligence about our approach. hidden installations throughout their system, weapons that can hurt our ships. This level of preparation takes decades. Crix looked at the tactical display again. Hundreds of human installations surrounded his fleet. Each one was armed and ready for battle. Each one had been hidden until the moment they chose to reveal it. For the first time in his career, Admiral Crix faced the possibility that the Federation might have made a serious mistake. The humans weren't prey waiting to be conquered. They were predators who had been waiting for the Federation to walk into their trap. "Sir," Bong said nervously, "the humans are broadcasting again." This time a different human appeared. A younger man in a military uniform. "This is Captain Minho of the Soul's Vengeance," he said. "You have 30 minutes to begin withdrawing from our system. After that time, we will consider you a hostile force and respond accordingly." The transmission ended. Crix looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. For the first time in his career, he saw fear in their eyes. The humans had just given the mighty Federation fleet an ultimatum, and Crix wasn't sure they could refuse it. Admiral Crix stared at the tactical display, watching red dots multiply across his screens. Each dot represented a human weapon platform that had been hiding until now. His intelligence officers had counted 50 installations in the Sol system. The real number was closer to 500. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Lieutenant Dan worked frantically at his sensor station. "Sir, our long-range scouts have been monitoring this system for months. These installations weren't here before." "You mean we missed them?" Fleet Captain Nara said. "No, ma'am. I mean they weren't there. Look at these readings." Dan brought up historical sensor data on the main screen. 3 months ago, this asteroid was just rock and ice. Now it's a battle station with enough firepower to threaten a cruiser. Commander Yule studied the data with growing horror. "They built all of this in 3 months? Or they moved it here," Dan suggested. "Sir, what if the humans have mobile installations? What if they can relocate their defenses wherever they need them?" The idea was terrifying. The Federation relied on intelligence gathering. They studied target systems for years before attacking. But if the humans could move their defenses, all that intelligence was worthless. "Sir," Communications Officer Bong announced, "I'm intercepting human military communications. They're not using any encryption we can break." "What are they saying?" Crix asked. "I can't tell, sir. But the communication patterns suggest they're coordinating a very complex operation. Multiple fleet elements, ground installations, and mobile units all working together." Crix had seen many military operations in his career. He knew what good coordination looked like. What Bong was describing was beyond good. "It was perfect, Admiral," Nara said quietly. "I recommend we reconsider our approach. These humans are not what our intelligence suggested." Before Crix could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the bridge. The tactical display lit up with new contacts. Human ships were appearing throughout the system, but not in the way any civilized species would deploy their forces. "Sir," Dan shouted. "Multiple contacts approaching from all directions. They're using some kind of advanced stealth technology. They were here all along, but we couldn't see them." The main screen showed what looked like empty space one moment and a human warship the next. Then another appeared. And another. Within minutes, dozens of human vessels surrounded the Federation fleet. But these weren't the primitive ships Crix had expected. These vessels were sleek, angular, and covered in armor that seemed to bend light around it. They moved with impossible grace, changing direction and speed without any visible effort. "Those ships," Nara breathed. "They're not using reaction drives. How are they moving like that?" "Sir," the engineering officer called out. "I'm reading energy signatures unlike anything in our database. These humans have technology we've never encountered." Captain Minho's face appeared on the communication screen again. Behind him, Crix could see a bridge that looked nothing like Federation designs. Everything was clean, efficient, and focused on function rather than intimidation. "Admiral Crix," Minho said calmly, "your 30 minutes are up. Please begin your withdrawal from human space." "We are the Galactic Federation," Crix replied, trying to sound confident. "We do not withdraw." Minho nodded as if he had expected that answer. "I understand. In that case, we will provide a demonstration of why withdrawal would be in your best interests." The transmission ended. "Sir," Dan reported, his voice tight with fear, 3 human ships are approaching our forward scouts." On the tactical display, Crix watched 3 Federation destroyers face off against 3 human vessels. The Federation ships were each twice the size of the human craft. They had heavier armor, bigger weapons and more experienced crews. The engagement lasted 12 seconds. When it was over, the 3 Federation destroyers were debris floating in space. The human ships were completely undamaged. What just happened? Crix demanded. Dan replayed the engagement in slow motion. The human ships moved faster than our targeting systems could track. They fired some kind of energy weapon that cut through our shields like they weren't there. Our return fire never even hit them. That's impossible, Nara said. No ship can move that fast and maintain structural integrity. These ships can, Dan replied. And sir, they're not done. More human vessels were moving throughout the system. They approached Federation ships in small groups, always outnumbered, always smaller than their targets. And every engagement ended the same way. The Federation ships were destroyed. The human ships continued on to their next targets. Sir, Yule said quietly, we need to retreat. These humans have technology far beyond anything we've encountered. The Federation does not retreat, Crick said automatically, but his voice lacked conviction. Sir, Bong announced, the humans are broadcasting on all channels. They want every ship in the Federation fleet to hear this. A new face appeared on screen. This human was older, with gray hair and calm eyes. He wore a uniform that suggested high rank. This is Admiral Gina of the Terran Defense Force, he said. We are currently engaged with elements of your fleet. As you can see, your ships are no match for ours. We do not wish to destroy your entire force, but we will if necessary. The display switched to show the battle from the human perspective. Their ships moved through space like dancers, avoiding Federation weapons with impossible precision, while their own shots found their targets every time. Your intelligence about humanity was incorrect, Admiral Gina continued. We are not a primitive species. We have been spacefaring for much longer than your scouts believed. We have been preparing for this encounter for decades. The image changed again, showing the true scope of the human defenses. Battle stations disguised as asteroids, weapon platforms hidden in the shadows of moons, ships cloaked with technology that made them invisible to Federation sensors. We know about your expansion pattern, Admiral Gina said. We know about your standard tactics. We know about your weaknesses. And we have been preparing accordingly. Crix felt cold fear creeping up his spine. They've been watching us, learning about us. For how long? Nara whispered. Admiral Gina seemed to answer her question. We have been monitoring Federation activities for over 50 years. We have studied every conquest, every battle, every tactical mistake your enemies made. We learned from their failures. The broadcast showed more scenes of the battle. Human ships working in perfect coordination to dismantle Federation formations. Weapons that cut through the strongest armor like paper. Technology that made the Federation's best equipment look primitive. We do not seek conquest, Admiral Gina continued. We seek only to defend our territory and our way of life. But we are prepared to do so with overwhelming force if necessary. The transmission ended, leaving the Federation bridge in stunned silence. Sir, Dan reported, we've lost 37 ships in the last 10 minutes. The humans haven't lost a single vessel. Crix looked at the tactical display. Red dots marked the remains of Federation ships while green dots showed human forces moving freely throughout the system. His mighty fleet was being torn apart by an enemy they had thought was helpless. Sir, Yule said urgently, we need to signal retreat. If we stay here, they'll destroy the entire fleet. For the first time in his career, Admiral Crix faced a choice he had never expected to make. He could order his fleet to fight to the death against impossible odds. Or he could do something no Federation admiral had ever done. He could admit defeat. Sir, Bong announced, the humans are targeting our flagship. Multiple ships are moving to attack positions. Crix looked at his officers. He saw fear in their faces. Fear in the terrible understanding that they had walked into a trap designed by an intelligence far superior to their own. The humans had been waiting for them, planning for them, preparing to destroy them with technology and tactics the Federation couldn't match. Open a channel to the human fleet, Crix said quietly. Sir? Nara asked. Open the channel, Crix repeated. It's time to find out what these humans really want. The channel opened and Admiral Gina's face appeared on the main screen of the Harmony's Edge. The human admiral looked calm, almost peaceful despite the battle raging around them. Admiral Crix, Gina said. I was wondering when you would call. What do you want? Crix asked bluntly. That's a very simple question with a complex answer, Gina replied. We want you to leave our system. We want you to leave us alone. And we want you to understand that humanity is not interested in joining your Federation. You're making a mistake, Crix said. The Federation is the dominant power in this galaxy. We have resources and technology beyond anything you can imagine. Admiral Gina smiled. Admiral, you're currently looking at our technology. Your fleet is being destroyed by ships you can barely track using weapons you can't understand. What resources do you have that we need? On the tactical display, another Federation cruiser exploded. The human ships responsible were already moving on to their next targets. We have thousands of worlds, Crix said desperately. Billions of citizens. The largest military force in galactic history. Yes, Gina agreed. And how is that working out for you today? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Around them, the battle continued. Human ships moved through space with impossible grace, while Federation vessels struggled to even locate their enemies. Commander Yule was studying the tactical patterns with fascination and horror. Admiral, he said quietly, look at how they're fighting. The humans weren't engaging in the massive fleet battles the Federation preferred. Instead, they were using small groups of ships to attack specific targets. They hit communication relays first, cutting off Federation ships from their command structure. Then they attacked sensor arrays, leaving their enemies blind. Finally, they struck at engines and weapons, leaving Federation ships helpless. They're not trying to destroy us quickly, Yule realized. They're trying to make us helpless. They want us alive. Why? Nara asked. Admiral Gina answered as if he had heard their conversation. We don't believe in unnecessary killing, Admiral Crix. Every ship we destroy represents thousands of lives lost. We prefer to disable your vessels and give your crews the chance to surrender. The Federation does not surrender, Crix said. That's unfortunate, Gina replied, because your alternative is death. As if to prove his point, a group of human ships approached a damaged Federation destroyer. Instead of finishing it off, they used some kind of energy beam to disable its remaining weapons and engines. The Federation ship drifted helplessly, but its crew was alive. You see, Admiral Gina continued, humans have a different philosophy of warfare than most species. We don't fight for conquest or glory. We fight to protect what we love. Lieutenant Dan was monitoring human communications, trying to understand their coordination. Sir, he reported, the human ships are using some kind of quantum communication system. They're sharing information instantly across the entire system. Quantum communication? Nara said. That's theoretical technology. It shouldn't be possible. Many things shouldn't be possible, Admiral Gina said, but humans have a talent for making the impossible work. We've had to develop this talent over centuries of facing impossible odds. Centuries? Crix asked. But our intelligence says you only reached space 50 years ago, Gina laughed. Your intelligence is based on what we wanted you to see. We've been in space much longer than that. We've been watching the galaxy, learning about the various powers and their methods. The truth was beginning to dawn on Crix. You've been studying us. For decades, Gina confirmed. We knew the Federation would eventually reach our system. We knew you would come with overwhelming force, expecting easy conquest. So we prepared. How? Crix demanded. How did you develop all this technology so quickly? Humans are very good at learning from other people's mistakes, Admiral Gina said. We studied every species the Federation conquered. We learned what went wrong, why they failed. Then we made sure we wouldn't make the same errors. Commander Hyun's voice came through the communication system. He was commanding a squadron of human interceptors that were systematically destroying Federation communication satellites. Admiral, Hyun reported, Phase 2 is complete. Enemy coordination is down to 30% effectiveness. Acknowledged, Commander. Begin Phase 3. Crix watched in horror as more human ships appeared throughout the system. These weren't the sleek fighters that had been attacking his fleet. These were massive vessels that had been hiding behind planets and moons. My God, Nara whispered. How many ships do they have? More than you, Admiral Gina said simply. But numbers aren't everything, Admiral. The Federation has always relied on brute force and intimidation. Humans prefer intelligence and preparation. On the tactical display, the new human ships began to move. They weren't attacking the Federation fleet directly. Instead, they were positioning themselves to control key areas of the system. What are they doing? Crix asked. Demonstrating, Gina replied. Admiral, you came here expecting to conquer a primitive species. Instead, you found a military power that has been preparing for this encounter, longer than some of your officers have been alive. The largest of the new human ships moved into position near the Federation flagship. It was easily the size of a Federation dreadnought, but built completely differently. Where Federation ships were designed to look intimidating, this human vessel was designed for pure combat efficiency. "This is Captain Tay of the Inchen's Fury," a new voice announced. "Admiral Crix, your fleet is completely surrounded. Your communications are being jammed. Your ships are being disabled faster than they can respond. You have one choice remaining." "What choice?" Crix asked, though he already knew the answer. "Surrender," Captain Tay said. "Order your fleet to power down their weapons and surrender. We will guarantee the safety of your crews and help arrange for your return to Federation space." The bridge of the Harmony's Edge fell silent. Every officer stared at their displays, watching the systematic destruction of their fleet by an enemy they had thought was helpless. "Sir," Yule said quietly, "we have no choice. If we continue fighting, they'll destroy us all." "The Federation has never surrendered," Crix said, but his voice was weak. "The Federation has never faced humans before," Admiral Gina pointed out. "Admiral, your crews are brave and loyal. Don't waste their lives on a battle you cannot win." Crix looked around his bridge one more time. These officers had followed him through dozens of campaigns. They had conquered worlds and civilizations together. They deserved better than dying in a hopeless battle. "All ships," he said into his communication system. "This is Admiral Crix, ceasefire. Power down weapons. Prepare to surrender to human forces." "A wise decision," Admiral Gina said. "Your crews will be treated with respect and returned safely to Federation space. But Admiral, I want you to understand something important." "What?" "This encounter will be reported to every species in the galaxy. They will learn that the mighty Federation fleet was defeated by a species you thought was primitive. They will learn that there are alternatives to Federation membership." The implications hit Crix like a physical blow. If word of this defeat spread, other species might rebel. The Federation's reputation for invincibility would be shattered. "You're going to destroy the Federation," he said. "No," Admiral Gina replied. "We're going to give other species the same choice we just gave you. Join willingly or face the consequences. The difference is, we won't threaten to destroy those who refuse." As human ships moved to secure the surrendering Federation vessels, Crix realized that everything had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Humans had just announced their arrival among the stars, and they had done it by defeating the most powerful military force in the galaxy, without even trying very hard. Admiral Crix had surrendered his fleet, but he still had one card to play. Deep in the formation of Federation ships, the massive dreadnought Infinite Domination had been waiting. This was the Federation's most powerful weapon, a ship capable of destroying entire planets. "Admiral," Commander Yule said quietly, "Captain Zend of the Infinite Domination is requesting permission to target the human homeworld." Crix looked at the tactical display. The human planet Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, undefended as far as he could tell. If he could threaten their homeworld, maybe the humans would negotiate. "Tell Captain Zend to move into firing position," Crix ordered. "But do not fire unless I give the direct order." The Infinite Domination began to move. It was truly massive, dwarfing even the largest human ships they had seen. Its main weapon could crack a planet's crust and boil away its oceans. "Surely the humans would have to respond to such a threat, sir," Lieutenant Dan reported. "The human ships are pulling back. They're giving the Infinite Domination clear approach to Earth." "Good," Crix said. "Now we'll see how confident these humans really are." But Fleet Captain Nara was studying the tactical display with growing concern. "Admiral, this doesn't make sense. Why would they leave their homeworld undefended?" "Fear," Crix replied. "They know what our planet killers can do." Admiral Gina's face appeared on the communication screen again. He still looked completely calm. "Admiral Crix," Gina said, "I see you're positioning a planet killer weapon to threaten Earth. I must ask you to reconsider this action." "Now we negotiate," Crix said with satisfaction. "Order your ships to withdraw from this system and Earth will not be harmed." "I see," Admiral Gina replied. "You believe threatening our homeworld will change the tactical situation?" "It will change everything," Crix said. Admiral Gina smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Admiral, you're making the same mistake every species makes when they first encounter humans. You assume we think like you do." Before Crix could ask what that meant, alarms began sounding throughout his flagship. Lieutenant Dan stared at his sensors in shock. "Sir," Dan said, his voice shaking. "Something is emerging from behind Earth's moon. It's huge." On the main display, a shape began to separate itself from the shadow of Luna. At first, it looked like another moon. Then the scale became clear, and every alien on the bridge felt their blood turn to ice. The human warship was beyond massive. It was a moving mountain of metal and weapons, easily 10 times the size of the Infinite Domination. But where Federation ships were built to look intimidating, this vessel was built for one purpose only: to kill other warships. Every surface bristled with weapon emplacements. Its hull was scarred and blackened from countless battles. Energy readings showed power sources that shouldn't be possible. And painted on its side in letters large enough to be seen from space was its name: Sol Ascendant. "What is that thing?" Nara whispered. Communications Officer Bong was receiving signals from the massive ship. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. They want every ship in both fleets to hear this." A new face appeared on screen. This human was different from the others they had seen. Older, with scars on his face and eyes that had seen too much war. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone who had fought battles across the galaxy. "This is Captain Kaiwan of the Sol Ascendant," he said. "Admiral Crix, you have made a serious error in judgment." The camera pulled back to show the bridge of the human ship. It was unlike anything in the Federation. Every station was focused on warfare. Displays showed tactical information from across the entire system. Officers worked with calm efficiency at weapons that could destroy fleets. "You threatened our homeworld," Captain Kiwan continued. "This is something humans take very personally." Lieutenant Dan was studying the sensor readings from the massive human ship. What he found defied belief. "Sir, that ship is tracking every vessel in our fleet simultaneously." "All of them at the same time? That's impossible," Nara said. "No computer system could process that much targeting data." "Sir," Dan continued, his voice growing more frightened, "it's not just tracking us. It's locked onto us. Every ship in the Federation fleet has multiple target locks from that one vessel." Admiral Crix felt true fear for the first time in his career. "How many weapons does that ship have?" "I can't count them all, sir. Hundreds, maybe thousands." Captain Kiwan's voice filled the bridge again. "The Sol Ascendant is what humans call a fortress ship. It was built for one purpose: to defend Earth against any threat. It has been upgraded and improved for over a century." The display showed weapon systems charging to full power. Energy readings spiked beyond anything the Federation had ever recorded. "Your planet killer," Captain Kiwan said, "is capable of destroying one world. The Sol Ascendant is capable of destroying your entire fleet. Every ship, every crew member, all at once." To prove his point, a section of the ship's weapons fired, not at the Federation fleet but at empty space. The energy beams created explosions that lit up the darkness like new suns. "One ship," Commander Yule said in amazement. "One ship could destroy our entire fleet." But Captain Kiwan wasn't finished. "Admiral Crix, you should know that the Sol Ascendant is not alone." More shapes began emerging from hiding places throughout the system. Behind asteroids, in the shadows of planets disguised as space debris, dozens of similar ships appeared. Not as large as the Sol Ascendant, but each one easily capable of fighting an entire Federation battle group. "We call this the Home Defense Fleet," Captain Kiwan said. "These ships never leave the Sol system. Their only job is to ensure that Earth remains safe from any threat." Lieutenant Su's voice came from the tactical station on the human ship. "Sir, all Federation vessels are targeted and locked. We can engage the entire fleet simultaneously on your command." Captain Kiwan nodded. "Admiral Crix, every ship in your fleet has been in our crosshairs since you entered this system. We chose not to fire. We chose to give you a chance to withdraw peacefully." The implications hit Crix like a physical blow. "You could have destroyed us at any time. From the moment you crossed into our territory," Captain Kiwan confirmed. "We've been watching your fleet, learning your formation, studying your tactics. We know the specifications of every ship you brought here." Admiral Gina's voice joined the conversation. "Admiral, this is what humans call overwhelming force. Not the crude intimidation your Federation uses, but the quiet confidence that comes from absolute tactical superiority." Fleet Captain Nara was studying the tactical display with professional fascination despite her fear. "Sir, look at their positioning. These ships aren't just randomly placed. They're positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire that cover every possible escape route. We've been doing this for a very long time, Captain Kiwan said. Earth has been attacked before, Admiral, by species with technology far more advanced than yours. None of them succeeded. How long? Crix asked. How long have you been preparing for this? Humans have been fighting for survival since before we reached the stars, Captain Kiwan replied. We learned long ago that the universe is full of species who believe might makes right. We decided to become very, very good at proving them wrong. The communication switched to show the bridge of the Soul Ascendant again. Every human officer worked with calm efficiency, managing weapon systems that could sterilize entire solar systems. Admiral Crix, Captain Kiwan said, you came here expecting to find sheep. Instead, you found wolves, very well armed, highly organized, extremely patient wolves who have been waiting for you to make exactly the mistake you just made. The Infinite Domination suddenly found itself surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. Each one had weapons trained on the Federation dreadnought. Your planet killer is now targeted by 17 different vessels, Captain Kiwan announced. If it so much as charges its main weapon, it will be destroyed in approximately 3 seconds. Admiral Crix looked at his tactical display one final time. His mighty fleet was scattered and helpless. His most powerful ship was surrounded and outgunned. The species he had thought was primitive had just demonstrated military technology, centuries ahead of anything the Federation possessed. What do you want? He asked quietly. We want you to leave, Captain Kiwan said simply. We want you to go back to Federation space and never return. And we want you to carry a message to your superiors. What message? Captain Kiwan's scarred face filled the screen. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Tell them that humanity is not interested in joining the Federation. Tell them that Earth is now under the protection of the Terran Defense Force. And tell them that any attempt to return will be met with overwhelming force. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Harmony's edge in stunned silence. Outside, the massive human ships waited patiently for the Federation fleet to begin its retreat. Their weapons remained trained on every Federation vessel, ready to fire at the first sign of aggression. For the first time in galactic history, the Federation had encountered a species they could not conquer, and that species had just made it very clear that they would destroy anyone who tried.